So here's why the whole cancel culture thing is literal BS. Because they recently did a survey. It's like over 20,000 people talking about the Pippi Longstocking scene. You know, they went around canceling different pieces of just random like history or entertainment. And they said 8% of the people actually thought that the scene where she kind of held her eyes back and like did some random Chinese song should be like, I guess, deleted from the scenes. And so that means, what, 92% of people thought that it should stay. So, okay, maybe for those 8%, it's detrimentally destructive to their fabric of being. But it was still no, but that it obviously probably was not that serious for them. But maybe they thought that for some, a person of Asian descent, that it was a horrible setback that would turn them back to the Chinese mining days in the Old West, where they were getting blown up on the side of railroads. Like, that shit's fucked up. But it's not gonna do that. It's comedy. It's some little kid saying something that probably most other kids can relate to, where they just weren't, they probably weren't even thinking about much of that end. I mean, I know some of this is probably scripted, but kids just do that shit. I mean, it's like, we just enjoy other people's cultures to the point where you want to imitate it. People think that's hate. Well, that's usually love. Like, if you love something enough, you want to replicate it. You want to get the most out of it as much as you can. I mean, is there some aspect of, kind of like reprieve or some type of like, actually, I don't know what that word is. Is there some aspect of mockery? Maybe, yes. But that's not going to just go away just because we're going to go around and like destroy people's lives and what they've worked for 35 years sometimes, or more, like 50. Just because of of a joke, which is basically just the taking of a even a dark situation can be something of value to people, because sometimes things just aren't, they don't really have like a great aspect to them, like say like a bombing or something. What other way can we make that better for our president and our future other than some type of like joke about it? Because you can't go back and like reverse all the explosive pieces and put everyone's bodies back together. God damn it, this is turning into a joke now. It sounds fucking weird, but so I guess that's kind of back to my example, is like you kind of have to bring it. Comedy is bringing light out of something dark, something lower vibe. And if your people are saying that you have to, you have to stamp that as evil and say this is permanently going to be like, or like fucking sear it in with one of those like cow prods where you just like melt that, like, just bad. And like everyone has to suffer when they think or talk about this. That's horrible for everyone. I mean, I don't know who the fuck that's good for. I mean, maybe other than the person that's doing this shit, but the people that are making comedy or light about it they're not terrorists. They're not fucking evil bastards. So why are we treating them as such? Why are we saying you get the same extradition and like expulsion, and like you get kicked out of our society basically because you're deemed as a fucked up bad person for trying to make people smile and laugh about things and feel good about things maybe that they didn't have a way out of before. So basically, that's just fucked up. I mean, plain and simple. And for us to just oblige to say, oh, because the media reported that 8% of people, maybe less, didn't approve of something, well, 92% of them did, then how is that a democracy? We're not supporting the majority. We're just supporting some small group of people. I mean, that even sounds like a larger group. I bet you it's usually like less than 1%. It's just a few, dozen people that are saying this shit about dumb stuff. like they have like situations where like say like a comedian goes to a college show, I think, and he says something about like, oh, you know, people, I think the joke was like, people chose, or why would you choose to be gay and transsexual? Like, you just get a bunch of shit for it. And the people that weren't gay and transsexual got offended. The people that were laughing because the joke was supposed to like help you feel better, basically, about, you know, that yeah, like, obviously you don't choose it, you're kind of born that way, and like that was the whole joke, is making fun of people that are hating or whatever, they're phobic of gay or trans people. And it's not like, yeah, it just popped up one day and was like, you know what, fuck it, you know, my physiology is saying I should be doing the same sex and changing my sex to fit that one. Like, it's some type of genetic code or whatever you want to distinguish it to, that some soul, I don't know, you know, something that just inevitably, like, just like straight people, like, they just kind of just know that they should be doing each other. But yeah, that was the major thing. I hope I got everything. Sorry, my voice was turned up. I think I had just been thinking about this one for a while, of how to say it, like a long time, many months. I hope it came out okay. But yeah, basically, I think we just fall into that a lot. I mean, you can see it now. It's just the majority of evidence points to the fact that we shouldn't be treating something that's not even anywhere near as severe. Maybe it creates, like, for some fucking crazy maniac person, maybe it creates a little bit more justification for them to be fucking a little bit fucked up. But I think it doesn't really do that, because most of the time they just realize, they know it's a joke, and then they realize, okay, well, this is obviously just a play. It's like a get-through of their ego to get them to realize, wow, you shouldn't be doing this shit. And even then, like, they're not gonna stop all hatred people by just never acknowledging that there is that anymore, or like making fun of it to make them feel bad about it, that they're doing it, or like show them the insanity of it by having this medium that you can break through their ego. So there's so much just disillusion behind it. And then if we're gonna be just throwing people out to the street because they try to make you feel better about something or give you a different perspective, then that's not freedom of speech, and it's not a real democracy or you know, freedom to have liberty or anything, because there's no judge or jury there. It's just, well, we formed an opinion from the media, which is owned by like fucking 3 goddamn companies, and they just push out fear and propaganda to just try and just thwart our whole freedom of speech anyway. And that's in the Constitution. You know, that's written there specifically to prevent things like this. And if people can't, you know, have right to shelter, and because they can't afford, they don't have their career anymore that they worked for, and they just maybe they're not, you know, they don't have the type of work or location, they have to move out from their friends and their old lifestyle, because just maybe less than 80% of all people form some just nasty opinion about something, that everything has to be just has to be solidified as the most. Everything around it has to be screwed. Everything that touches that must be sad. Every thought about it must be fucked up. Every outlook of it must be that, you know, there can't be any new. You can't even talk about it because it's too culturally insensitive or politically incorrect or whatever it is. Because then you're you're not that person, or you're not whatever. They just make some assumption about you, even though you could like get a DNA test. Turns out you were, you know, have African descent, or Asian, or fucking you are actually a lesbian or whatever. And then they're like, oh, well, then what then? Well, they've already, you know, accused this person of doing all these things that they deem to be screwed up in their high moral standard of making people basically homeless and destroying their entire is it called defamation, where you destroy their entire outlook and make them basically just like trash. it's almost like assassinating someone's character and their livelihood to the point where they're just no longer able to have any type of security. They're just fucked. They lose all their money eventually, and yeah. But that's where we are now. It's great. I think it's just, and I don't completely blame the people. I think it's a brainwashing thing from the media, but it just sucks. Like, can we just come out of it like a little bit? You know, can we realize that maybe we shouldn't damage people the way that we do an actual racist or an actual terrorist or an actual like a robber or murderer, and that these people that are play pretending like a fucking, you know, like a child does. Like, we don't go around to children and say, oh, well, you play pretending to kill Becky and your little cowboy and Indian thing, or whatever they call it. It's supposed to be Native American, but that's what they call it. And now you have to, now for the rest of your life, you're not going to have a job, and you're not going to be able to have any type of public appearances, because everyone's going to hate you because they just saw one thing that said that you should hate this person, and they didn't read into it or look into their life at all, because it's just one little excerpt of like their entire fucking life. Instead, maybe, yeah, if you don't like something about someone's performance or outlook or perspective or opinion, even, like, maybe that's fine. Just keep it to yourself, or fucking, you know, you don't have to like go up and fucking try and destroy someone's life. That's just sick and just twisted. And you know, you can just form an opinion about them back. But yeah, what are we doing? This is weird. This is like very Nazi-like. And then what are the repercussions? Like, these people, like, it's basically like when they had that shit where the people, like, girls, like, call rape on, like, what was it, like, they had like those athletes that were supposed to go pro in like lacrosse, and was that Duke or something, and then they found out that was all false, and now they didn't get their fucking shit back. I don't think they're not back to going back to pro. I think it was like years later, and there's no repercussion for the person that just called out, you know, the fake flag. They just cried wolf. They're just free to just go fucking destroy other people's lives just as they see fit, just because they, you know, maybe didn't just like something about themselves. Like, maybe, oh, I'm a fucking slanky slut or something. Like, I don't feel good about what I did, so I'm just gonna pretend that someone else is like fucking evil, and then I have no, you know, actual responsibility for myself. It's just, I was just a victim and shit. And like, but that's the same thing that's going on with this cancel culture thing. It's so fucked and weird. Like, it doesn't matter if there's any supporting evidence. Someone's just deemed, or they're treated as if they've murdered someone, or as if they have been, you know, in the KKK. I don't know, I almost stopped at K. And you know, I guess if you want to go that route, fucking provide some actual real evidence, not just some like, oh, like with PewDiePie, they tried to cancel him, but he's too big, I think, at that point. Or almost. He was like at like 8 million or 10 million or more and subscribers, and they were saying that he was an actual Nazi on Wall Street Journal, of all places, because he fucking watched some Hitler speech with like some German hat on. I don't even think it was Nazi, but it was like some German military thing. Maybe it was like before, but and it was like obviously a joke, because that was what he was joking about in the video. Was he was saying, you know, people can take any excerpt of any of your videos and twist it to their narrative and say this is what was going on, and then that happened, and people still believed it. It's like, come on, okay, like that's so they didn't actually get the evidence. They just acted like they did, and then no one looks into it. People don't do their own goddamn research. Everyone's just too like short-term attention span to actually like look into this shit. And that's some of the fault of our addictive personalities with social media scrolling. Like, oh, have a second there, have a second there. I need another dopamine hit, another dopamine hit, another dopamine hit. But still, like, you can just type in the shit and it will take your interest, I guess. But see if there's any. Don't like look at some of the look into the fact checkers too and see if they're bullshit. But I don't know. It's just weird. Like, if I think there was a fireman that was actually posting racist shit, and he was in the KKK, and then they fired him from his job, and he's not allowed back. That makes sense. Okay? Maybe if someone was burning alive in a house and they were black, he's in the KKK, maybe... Well, actually, that's kind of what they used to do, too. They would burn a cross in your yard and light your house on fire sometimes, but... So maybe he would let them die, and that's just dangerous. But if someone is a comedian making a joke about that, or some entertainer, is not dangerous. It doesn't hurt fucking anyone. If anything, it helps. And we're just going to sit there and act like it's some terrible incidents where everyone... I don't know, it just... What is the fear? That it's going to cause more by making people more aware of how stupid it is? Like, when you're pretending to be like Dave Chappelle, like pretending to be a black racist. Like, if anyone else did that, they would have fucking torn him apart. They would have thrown him out right then. Not had every other episode be like the most successful show of all time, and like getting like $15 million, or was it like 26 or 55? But you know, that's, and he played a fucking white man, and he said he was like a cracker and pretended like a Chinese man. No one gives a shit because he's black. Well, like, oh, well, that means that he's the oppressed. Well, no, he wasn't directly a slave. You know, he was just a normal guy. He grew up in Washington D.C. Maybe in some part of like, but he wasn't like whipped and fucking lashed like he pretends that he was like the slave in his show. So that somehow gives them rights to make fun of Asian people. But then if any white person does it, then it's like, oh, well, they're automatically racist. Well, no, that means you're racist because you're saying that any other culture can make fun of each other except for the white one because we're better than them. They weren't oppressed like us or some shit. And this is not true. Like, Italians, and they come over here, they're indentured servants. They had fucking Irish slaves. They had slaves all over Europe and fucking Rome. They had gladiators fucking cutting each other to pieces and shit. You know, you get eaten by a lion. Those are Romans. Those are Italians. So we're all like against each other when we're all just humans anyway. Like, everyone's been treated the same. Everyone's just as, or not just as, but close to. There's a lot of oppression going on just towards humanity as a whole. Now, not as before. And then we have people like hate each other and they act like we're fucking supposed to be like against each other, and like people are worried about just because there's the BLM movement and people are helping each other get out of that shit. And there was some fucked up shit in that. You know, they had statistics proving that there was racism in cops. It's like 2 out of 3. I forget the fucking statistics. I think it was like it's like 2 or 3 times as many a chance to get mistreated by a police officer physically. I forget that it was a while ago looking at this, but even though there's less of them. So I guess that was my point, was that if we're gonna hold these standards and then not hold them for other times just because someone is they're white or whatever the fuck, or oh, they can't understand gay people because we don't think they're gay, or they're not transsexual. Well, you don't fucking know. They could be. You could get a DNA test or something, and it's just weird. Like, it's hypocritical. Like, you're double standard where you're turning back on your own knowledge. It's not there. You can't be saying that I have an impunity race, or impunity rationality, when basically turning back on their own fucking stuff that you're saying towards other people and saying that this is okay for this type of person, but anyone else can't do the same exact shit. And even if it's fake, or it's play pretend, or it's to help people understand something or help them fucking get past something dark, no one's allowed. Like, no one can enjoy their own flavor of ice cream. If I don't like that one, you all have to fuck off and just die and never have that again. No one else can have it except for the 8% that control fucking everything.